Good afternoon, everybody. I want to continue these talks on the Noble Eightfold Path. Today, I like to speak on last two steps of the Noble Eightfold Path, that is right mindfulness and right concentration. These two are also very, very important as parts of the Noble Eightfold Path. And actually these are the two steps that most often people use these days as in their meditation, as they practice meditation. I have mentioned that these are not the only factors that we use for meditation, but the entire 8 steps of the Noble Eightfold Path, entire steps. We have gone through the other 6 steps, and these are the last 2 steps. When you practice mindfulness and concentration, you should have a very, very clear idea of what you are doing. You may go to various meditation teachers, meditation centers, instructors to learn mindfulness and concentration meditation. They all teach you in their own way as they understand. But eventually, sometimes you get confused because different teachers say different things. In order to clarify your doubt, all you have to do is to follow the Buddha's instructions. He said, after giving 84,000 sermons for 45 years, when he was going to pass away, when bhikkhus asked him, Venerable Sir, who would you appoint your successor? Sariputta, Moggallana, Mahakassapa, and so on. Buddha said, no, none of them I appoint as my successor. This Dhamma is your successor, my successor. Because Dhamma is, of course, Venerable Sariputta, Moggallana and Mahakassapa and so forth are enlightened Arahant. When they pass away, some others will come. And they pass away, somebody else will come. And if you were to follow individuals, then Dhamma can not remain as pure and clean as it is. But the Dhamma itself is pure and clean, and therefore you follow the Dhamma, not individuals, not persons instructions. So he gave what he called 4 solaces. Anyway, I'm not going to explain all these things, but that is not the topic. But I want to mention that whenever you have a doubt, as the Buddha has very clearly instructed us, go to the Dhamma. Go to the Dhamma. Go to the sutras where Buddha has taught meditation. You don't have to rely on any teacher. Go to the sutras. where Buddha has very clearly explained meditation. One sutra is mindfulness of breathing. Read it 50 times. Not read just like a newspaper and throw it away. Read Satipatthana, four foundations of mindfulness, 100 times. And read between lines. Read one time, one passage and think. Think very carefully. Buddha has repeated the same instruction 21 times in Mahasatipatthana Sutta. 21 times. People just completely ignore all this and say, I have read the sutra, I have these sutras, I have these sutras. Friends, that is not enough. Don't accept my words, read the sutra. And read Satipatthana Sutta, four foundations of mindfulness in Majjhima Nikaya. One is in Digha Nikaya, which is a long discourse on the foundations of mindfulness, and the other is middle length discourse in Majjhima Nikaya. Read these sutras very intently, just to learn something from these sutras, where you see what the mindfulness is. He explained in mindfulness, he called four foundations of mindfulness. Friends, it is a foundation. Therefore, it is solid, strong. Mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and mindfulness of mental objects, or Dhamma. In the long discourse, as I mentioned, he repeatedly advised us to be mindful 21 times in this discourse. So, let me give you one example from one of them. The same thing is repeated. Say Satipatthana, four foundations of mindfulness, the first one. So, in the first one, he used the same first section of Anapanasati Sutta, mindfulness of breathing. Mindfulness of breathing is divided into four groups, which are called four tetrads, each representing one foundation. Foundation of the body, foundation of feelings, foundation of the mind, and foundation of mental objects. So the first one, he says, be mindful of the breath, and he explained there are four steps: long breath, long inhaling as long inhaling, long exhaling as long exhaling, short inhaling as short inhaling, short exhaling as short exhaling, and knowing the entire breathing body, breath body, breathe in and breathe out, and relaxing entire breath body, breathe in and breathe out. And then he says, that is the first exercise to practice mindfulness. Then he said, iti ajjattang va kaya kayanupassi viharati, bahiddha va kaya kayanupassi viharati. Remain being mindful of internal body. Remain being mindful of external body. Bahiddhava kaya, kayanupassi viharati. When we breathe in and out, what is the internal body? What is the external body of the breath? Friends, internal body is the breath that we breathe in and out. External body is the air that we are surrounded by. The whole world is covered with the atmosphere. Hydrosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, barosphere, there are all kinds of spheres. We are in atmosphere, where air is all over us. What happened to the internal breath, internal body, is the breath that we breathe in, happens to the external air. What happened to the internal air? It is changing, impermanent, unsatisfactory. What happened to the external air? That also is changing, moving. Actually, we can even make it change, pollute it. We are very good in that. We are doing that. Internal air also get polluted. Because when we breathe out, it is not the same breath that we breathe in. It is without oxygen, carbon dioxide. And that is what we add to the external air. So, internal air is changing all the time. Similarly, external air is. Iti ajjatangva kaya kayamukasivya. So we become mindful of this breath as it is changing. Be mindful of the external air as they are changing. Then, samudaya dhammanupassya. Why dhammanupassya? Kayasmi viharati. Samudaya vaya dhammanupassya kayasmi viharati. Be mindful of rising, be mindful of falling, and be mindful of rising and falling. It sounds very confusing, because one time you say, be mindful of rising, and then you say, Buddha said, be mindful of falling, and then he said, be mindful of rising and falling. What does it mean? If we understand the nature of conditioned things, understanding this is not difficult. Be mindful of rising is one thing. Some things are always arising. In this case, the breath. And we become mindful of falling. That also is very clear. What is then be mindful of rising and falling? That means Buddha said in another discourse in Samyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya and so forth, Tini mani bhikkhave sankatasa sankata lakkhanani katamani tini uppado panyayati vayo panyayati titassa anyatattang panyayati. Meaning, bhikkhus, there are three characteristics of all existing things. What are the three? Rising is visible, knowable, discernible. Falling is discernible. And what is in between is altering. That alteration also is discernible. What is alteration? While we are breathing in, friends, that in-breath is changing. That breath goes into lungs while it is changing in a very, very minute way. Very fine air particles, air waves, very fine air particles are changing while it is going into our lungs. Also when we breathe out, air particles are changing while it is coming out. When we pay total, pure, clean, mindful attention, you become aware of these very tiny, minute changes while we are breathing in and while we are breathing out. So, not only become aware of the breath going in and coming out, breath rising and falling, but also become aware of the alteration in between, rising and falling. That is the very subtle thing that happens. Only when we understand that way, this statement makes a sense. That means becoming aware of very tiny, minute alteration of inhaling while inhaling, become aware of this alteration of minute things, air particles, while we are breathing out. So it needs very sharp, clear attention. So sometimes we say, mindfulness is paying moment to moment attention to what it is. This statement I have made in my Mindfulness in Plain English. But how many people pause and think to understand this very subtle, simple thing? Only when you breathe, only when you pay attention, only you pay total attention with undivided attention, you can experience this. So, iti ajjatang vaya kayanupassave bahiddhava kaya gana samudaya dhammanupassava kaya srimati vaya dhammanupassava kaya srimati samudaya vaya dhammanupassava. Then, another thing, in mindfulness, we first become mindful of internal air, external air or internal body and external body. Body here is used for the breath. As I mentioned yesterday, breath, body. The same thing happens to the rest of the body made up of 4 elements. Air also is made up of 4 elements. So, then, samudaya dhammanupassaka, vaya dhamma samudaya attikayoti vapanasya sati pacchupatita hoti. Yavadeva jnanamattaya pati satimattaya anishyatocha virati nacha kinchu loke upadhyate. This sentence also has very rich meaning. When we become aware of the breath, the body, this body exists for meditators, for people who pay mindful attention, to gain knowledge or wisdom or insight, that this body exists for us to gain knowledge and wisdom. Jnana, anisthitocha viti, not to cling to. This body exists for us to gain knowledge and vision or insight, but it does not exist for us to cling. And that is exactly what we do. We cling to it and forget the inside part. So this is what is called aggregation of clinging, because we are clinging to it. So, without clinging, impartially we pay attention to the body to see its very nature, its intrinsic nature. So, when we Therefore, when we practice mindfulness, what we do, in the Pali word, we use Pali words in order to explain these things because although English is a very, very rich language, it is secular language. Pali is a religious language, spiritual language. What is given in Pali in one word, we need many words in English to explain. So in the spiritual language or religious language, dead language, the word we use is anupassana. I mentioned this the other day. Anupassana. In order to gain vipassana, to practice vipassana, we have to develop our anupassana. Now, vipassana is seeing in a very special way. Vipassana means seeing in a very special way. Vi means very special. Seeing, asana means seeing. What is this? And also seeing in a very special way things as they are, or to understand things as they are. Seeing things in a very special way to understand exactly as they are. This is a very heavily loaded sentence, loaded with meaning. Seeing things. Seeing means not seeing with these eyes. That is why it is very special. To see with these eyes there is nothing special. This is a very special way of seeing. This is seeing with wisdom eye of wisdom. We normally call it, I don't see your point. In our conversation we say, we use the word they are seeing figuratively, not seeing with our eyes. Similarly in Vipassana, we want to see things in a very special way to know them exactly as they are. The special way is seeing with wisdom eye. Things means, since we use wisdom eye, we don't have to use our regular eyes. We even can close our regular eyes and pay attention. It is a mental exercise to things, to understand them as they are. What are the things? Things are the body, feeling, consciousness, mental activities, and perception. Form, feeling, perception, all mental activities and consciousness. This is what we call five aggregates. Friends, that is all we see. That's all we have to see in us, and that is all we see. And to see them exactly as they are. What does that mean? Exactly as they mean, they all have one intrinsic nature, or actually three characteristics. Everything is very clearly marked with these three characteristics. And that is what is called their intrinsic nature. We all understand what intrinsic means. This intrinsic nature of all our aggregates is that they are always changing, they all are impermanent, they all are unsatisfactory. Not one single part of this body is perfect and everlasting. They all are subject to this problem or this defect or that defect, anything those things manifest. So long as we maintain them maintain them diligently, they are okay. But they are liable to anything, any wrong thing. Liable to fall sick, liable to have some problems within them. Therefore, they are unsatisfactory. And also, since there is no way to control them, to keep according to our wish and whims, they are without any self. These three characteristics we can see in them. That is their true nature. To see this true nature, we pay attention. Why do you want to see that? Why do we want to see them, see their impermanence, unsatisfactoriness and selflessness? Why? Because there is a deluded notion or distorted perception that this body is permanent. My health is permanent, my youthfulness is permanent, my strength is permanent, my appearance is permanent, my popularity is permanent, my this permanent, that is the distorted perception. With this distorted perception, we move on until one day the body proves otherwise. When the true reality arises, it pulls the rug under our feet. And we will be disappointed. To avoid that, to understand it exactly as it is very important. So, impermanence. Unsatisfactoriness, because we think this body, mind, this life is created to enjoy pleasure. Nothing else in life, pleasure and pleasure and pleasure. Joy. That is another delusion. This life is not full of pleasure. We all have gone through this and all are going through this and all we understand. This life is not perfectly pleasurable life. There are moments of pleasure which are ephemeral, temporary. And that's not all in our life. Since they keep changing, pleasure changing to pain, pain changing to pleasure, pleasure changing to pain, this cycle keeps going on and on and on and on. So, overall, we have unsatisfactoriness. That means this body, mind, perception and so forth are not satisfactory. And seeing it exactly as it is mindfulness practice. In mindfulness practice, we see this exactly as it is. And also there is the notion that there is something within this impermanent mind and body, there is something permanent. That's why people ask this question, if there is reincarnation or rebirth, how can it be possible if there is no permanent self? This question arises very often in people's mind who tend to believe that there is something permanent. Friends, you will never ever find anything permanent. When you practice mindfulness meditation, you definitely see everything is volatile. Everything is evaporating. In order to gain this knowledge, we practice mindfulness. So, nacha kinchu loke upadi, anishchitocha viharati. We watch, observe this aggregate without clinging to them, nothing, without trying to hold on to them. Not that we are going to discard this body. We live in this body, we maintain this body and take care of the body. At the same time, do take care of the body with this understanding. When we do all these things, eating, drinking, sleeping and resting and so forth, maintaining the body, all the time we must think, yet in spite of all this taking care of this body, it is decaying. While we are taking care of this body, it is growing old. While we are taking care of this body, it falls sick. Why we want to get that knowledge? We want to get that knowledge. When it happens, we are right there. We are not lagging behind them. When I heard somebody has said, I don't know who, when talking about death, that person has said, I know, death is definite, inevitable, surest thing in life, but I don't want to be there when it happens. So, we don't want to be in that position. We want to be there when it happens. And we want to face it as it happens. When we are sick, we know that we anticipated one day I would fall sick. Now I must take care of it instead of being depressed about it. Because I know I would fall sick. Similarly, old age and so forth. Always mindfulness, meditation, practice is to prepare the mind to accept the reality when it happens, to accept this as it is. Anisitocha nachakinchu loke upadhyati. We don't cling to anything in this mind and body. No way that we can cling. They are slipping away. So in other words, when we practice mindfulness, remember we practice mindfulness of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness and selflessness. We practice mindfulness to see impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, selflessness. Of impermanence does not exist by itself. It exists of something. Something is impermanent. What is impermanent? Our body, our feeling, our perceptions and so on. Everything else also is impermanent. But their impermanence does not affect us, our body, mind, feeling and so forth, as strongly as the body, mind and so forth are impermanent. So mindfulness grants you insight into these three characteristics that I mentioned. So you use any object to further your mindfulness practice, so long as it helps you to gain insight into these three characteristics. You can use your breath, you can use your body, you can use your feelings, you can use your memories, ideas, perceptions, whatever, to see these three characteristics in any of them. So the deep purpose of mindfulness practice is to deepen or open our wisdom eye, to mature spiritually and make our life very stable. And the four foundations is given very clearly. Please study them very diligently with deep intention to understand it properly. So we use one of these objects. Sometimes past history of this mind, the body feeling and so forth might help us, but most important is what is happening now. We pay attention to what is happening now. This is what is called anupassana. I think I mentioned the meaning of anupassana. Anupassana means seeing as it is happening. Happening is going parallel to seeing. So these two must go together. Then there are postures that we can use among subjects of meditation. 4 postures: sitting, standing, walking, lying down. While sitting you use the breath and so on. While walking we can use our awareness and mindfulness to understand how all things function together to bring this awareness of impermanence. Walking meditation is a very good subject. In fact, in this Mahasatipatthana Sutta, there are 21 subjects. Breathing is one. And the postures, 4 postures, sitting, standing, walking and lying down, are subjects. Each of them is a subject of meditation. Because while walking, everything is involved. The body is involved, feeling is involved, perception is involved, consciousness is involved, thinking or volitional formations or mental activities are involved. And we pay attention to one of them, we pay attention to all of them. For instance, when we pay attention to lifting our foot, bringing forward and bringing down, in these few motions, activities, all the 5 aggregates are involved. We have feeling, we have perception, we have thought, we have consciousness, we have the body. All the 5 aggregates. And we can watch each of them is changing. Each of step is not satisfactory, because one moment we feel very, very good, next moment it is gone and something else appears. And then standing is another posture, another subject of meditation. We can use that to become aware of how standing becomes unsteady after a while because of this change. And then we begin to wobble. And then our standing becomes unsteady. Then we lie down. When somebody cannot meditate in sitting or standing or walking, due to certain physiological reasons, sickness or something, that person meditates while lying down. Sometimes it has its own danger because he can fall asleep, but if somebody cannot meditate in any other posture, that also is a very good posture. Even if you fall asleep, you fall asleep with mindfulness. Then another thing is that when we use postures, various activities, we can use these activities all day long. Any activity you perform, pay total attention. In that particular activity you can see impermanence, you can see unsatisfactoriness, you can see selfless. People say, when you wash dishes, be mindful of washing dishes. What does it mean? That means you want to wash the dish and make sure that there is no dirt on the dish, or make sure that you have sufficient detergent, soap. No. Even while washing dishes, you can be mindful of what is happening in your body, in your feelings, in your mind. Various thoughts arise, greed can arise, hatred can arise, and so on. Watch them and let them go. Otherwise, if every dishwasher is practicing meditation, mindfulness, then all these dishwashers in restaurant practicing meditation, mindfulness. That is not the mindfulness. Mindfulness meditation, while washing dishes, is to become aware of our own activities, how they change. When we pay attention, we definitely can become aware of their changes of body, our feelings, and our various thoughts that arise, greed, hatred, and good thoughts. I am washing dishes out of compassion. Let me develop my metta meditation, metta practice while washing dishes. Why I do that? In order to not only make somebody happy, but in order to avoid any sickness caused from food, some germs, virus, and so on. We can avoid, so that everybody will be healthy. With this intention, we can wash. So, when pleasant emotion, unpleasant emotion arise, we can wash them and see. Pleasant emotions is impermanent, unpleasant emotion also is impermanent, unfortunately. So we can see the whole cycle of rising, falling, altering, going on all the time in our activities. So we can see the whole world of sensations, feelings, thoughts, and so forth. Friends, I want to touch the other part of the topic, that is concentration. Mindfulness itself is a very big subject, and I just scratch the surface. But let me go to the concentration. To finish the Noble Eightfold Path talks today, tomorrow, I will, as I mentioned earlier, want to talk about upper middle path. So far we have been talking on lower middle path. So let me touch this part also. What is concentration? Concentration, by definition, is unification of wholesome mind is concentration. Unification of wholesome mental states. Unification of all wholesome mental states. Wholesome mental state is concentration. Therefore, concentration is not something just having one-pointedness of mind. You can get that kind of concentration as well. But just having one-pointedness of mind is alone not right concentration. So this is how right concentration is distinguished from wrong concentration. Wrong concentration is a concentration of or unification of mind, and you can have it sometimes without any particular contents in it. But the right concentration has its requisites. in the discourses, Buddha said, right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, all this support right concentration. Only when all these support concentration, that concentration is called right concentration. There you have morality, wisdom, understanding, all these are involved in right concentration. So, we are talking about right concentration. So, right concentration is the unification of wholesome mental states united together. So, to gain right concentration, Buddha gave very specific instructions to follow, step by step instruction for us to follow. It doesn't happen all of a sudden. Sometimes you say, people tell us, I sat on a cushion, I took only 5 minutes, I gained good concentration, I attained straight away the 4th jhana. What this person really has attained is a very, very good sleep. Because when everything is very, very calm, atmosphere is good, temperature is good, a lot of food is in the stomach, and then you sit down, you gain this kind of 4th jhanic concentration right away. And also sometimes people say when you gain concentration, even the first level of concentration, you hear nothing, feel nothing, you are completely outer space, touching the moon. You are not on earth, just floating. All these are confused kind of concentration, not real concentration. When you gain real concentration, friends, you don't lose your consciousness. You are fully aware. That is why when you read the formulas in Vandana book also, when you gain even the 4th jhana, the highest of jhanas, 4th jhana, your mindfulness is purified, equanimity is purified. Mindfulness is purified and equanimity is purified. When the mindfulness is purified, that purified mindfulness can see things, as I mentioned, those things that I mentioned, 5 obligations and so forth, not with words, not with labels, but seeing them exactly as they are. And this Buddha mentioned it in many, many places. Samahitan kittan yatha bhutang prajanati, concentrated mind can see things as they really are. Concentrated mind sees things as they really are. Seeing things as they really are, opening our wisdom eye to liberate ourselves from all these negative, unwholesome mental states. So, therefore, that kind of concentration we must gain by all means. When you gain the first level of concentration, you pay total attention and you can subside your hindrances, 5 hindrances, and in their place there will arise 5 jhanic factors like initial application of thought, sustained application of thought, joy, happiness and concentration. That arises only when you overcome your hindrances. What is initial application of thought? What is sustained application of thought? These also are not very clear. Because of the unclear, confused definitions and explanations, attainment also is very blurry, unclear. Initial application is, please remember this, initial application means that is the time you don't have greed, you don't have hatred, you don't have the thought of cruelty. This is a state of mind you have in this intensity, in this strength, only for the first time when you attain the first jhana. When you attain the first level of concentration, your greed will vanish from your mind, your hatred, resentment, anger, and whatsoever of that category will vanish from your mind, and your thought of cruelty, whatever scrapple of sense of cruelty you had, would be vanished. This vanishing you can make permanent when you go to higher stages of jhana. But this is a temporary thing. It can come back, they can come back again. And for the first time when this happened, that happening is called initial application of thought. They are called samma sankappa, vitakka, in Pali they call vitakka or sankappa. Sankappa, vitakka are interchangeable words in Pali. So the word vitakka here means, they translate it into English, initial application of thought, which means nothing. When you hear the word initial application of thought, you wonder, what is this? Initial application of thought. Only when we know the Dhamma and explain it in a sensible way, we understand what it means. Initial application is nothing but when the mind is concentrated, when the mind has all these requisites, right understanding, right thought and so forth, when all this complete, this is the moment where you experience for the first time greed, hatred and thought of cruelty vanishing from your mind. Friends, Noble Eightfold Path is the only path that we have to follow to get rid of greed, hatred and delusion. Now we have practiced, we have followed it. We have followed it. So we come to last step, concentration. Last step is concentration. In that concentration, the results of the practice of Noble Eightfold Path must appear. Results must bear fruit. This is the moment they begin to bear fruit. So initial application of thought there means the thought of non-cruelty, non-hatred, non-greed arise in the mind very, very clearly for the first time. Then sustained application of thought. We maintain, sustain, support that particular mental state that is sustained. And then what happens after that? Out of that what happens? Joy and happiness arises. When you for the first time experience that greed, hatred and thought of cruelty are gone, loving friendliness, compassion blossom. Don't you think you have joy? Happiness? On the one hand you let go of your hindrances, one of which is hatred, the other is greed, in addition to sleepiness, drowsiness, restlessness, worry and so forth. when they are all gone. We have been struggling for a long time. And then it happens. You are full of joy and happiness. Friends, we are fully aware of it, fully conscious of it. So it doesn't happen to us from nowhere. When it happens consciously, and when you lose it, you can regain it. If it happens all of a sudden like a dream, can you repeat a dream? You cannot repeat. You cannot go back to the dream and wish, let me have that dream again. No. But if it happens deliberately, consciously, mindfully, because we have cultivated mindfulness also, in right concentration there is mindfulness. And therefore, with right mindfulness, you gain this concentration at that level. You are fully conscious of it, you see it happening, and then you can repeat it. And that is how you attain the same level of concentration called jhana, again and again and again, because you remember the steps you followed. There must be steps. If you don't follow the steps and all of a sudden as soon as you sit on the cushion something happens, you can never repeat it. You don't know what it is. Then the second jhana or second level, you know every time when you attain it first time, it will not stay there for too long. Because your mind is still rather to some extent agitated, excited. Oh, something happened. So you lose it. When you lose it, don't worry. You follow the same step because you remember them. Follow, then you attain it. This is what is called mastering the jhana. You attain it again and again and again. And then comes a moment that this initial application, sustained application, these are not that great. Because once you have experienced twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, you experience it, then it also has this diminishing return. You know, in economics, one of the economic basic principles is diminishing return. It happens to everything. When you experience certain things again and again and again, you lose interest in it. You think of trillions of things experienced in life. First time, it is so gorgeous, so wonderful. Second time, third time, fourth time, it is another thing. So same thing is with the spiritual things. You attain the first jhana, and then you see this initial application is so wonderful. As you keep attaining, you lose interest, and then your mind definitely glide into the second step and looking for something else. That is the time you attain the second jhana. When you attain it, even there, joy, joy and happiness arises from the previous concentration. From the previous concentration means concentration you gain at the first level. That concentration gives rise to joy and happiness of higher degree, higher quality in the second jhana. And after attaining that you lose it, and then you keep attaining again and again and again. Then you become not very much interested in joy and happiness, but in the third level you gain sort of equanimity and happiness. Upekko satima sukha vihari. Yantang adi ajikkanti upekko satima sukha vihari iti. You have mindfulness, happiness, and equanimity. 3 factors. Mindfulness emerges at that time. You began your practice with mindfulness because in the Noble Eightfold Path, before concentration was your mindfulness, you practice it, and it is always there in the first jhana, first attainment, second attainment. But only when you come to the third attainment, this mindfulness that you practiced earlier emerges in full force. And then equanimity also is coming to taper of this power of equanimity. And equanimity rises. These 2 factors are very strong in the third level of attainment. When you go to the there is a joy, so happiness. As you keep losing it, you re-attain again and again, and then lose interest and then go to the 4th level, where mindfulness and equanimity are equally clean, pure, and very powerful. And this is the state, especially with mindfulness and equanimity, this is the state where you can look at things impartially. Because mindfulness on the one hand, you develop to be impartial. Equanimity is developed there, which also is impartial. In these 2 impartial mental states, you also have deep concentration, and with that concentration, without any fear, without any bias, you can look at your own body, feeling, perceptions and so forth to see these very powerful 3 characteristics which have been there all the time. And that is the state where you can overcome. Now at this level you can overcome not only hindrances, but there are some other heavy things in the mind. And you can even overcome them when you attain the 4th jhana. So tomorrow I speak on that and show you how you elevate yourself to the upper middle class. Get promotion. Okay? I talk about it tomorrow.